Coronavirus 2019-2020. Is it really serious or is it all hype? Today we're going to talk about what you can do to protect yourself, and of course we're going to cover some things that don't get mentioned in the regular channels. Coming right up. Hey, I'm Dr. Ekberg. I'm a holistic doctor and a former Olympic decathlete. And if you want to truly master health by understanding how the body really works, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss anything. As you probably heard, there's an outbreak of a virus called coronavirus. It started in Wuhan, China, and that's where most of the cases have been so far, but it's already spread to a number of countries, including the United States. So there's tens of thousands of cases in China, and there's a handful in the United States. And this particular coronavirus is called 2019 nCoV. So coronaviruses, it's a group of viruses. There are many different strains of them. And some of them are not so harmful. A lot of common infections that we have are actually coronaviruses. Most people have these infections many times during their lifetime. But recently, there have been some more serious forms of mutated coronaviruses. So typically, viruses are specific to a species. So viruses that affect humans usually don't affect cats and dogs and vice versa. So a lot of these coronaviruses live in animals and they don't pose a threat to humans unless they mutate, until they change their shape so that they have some receptors, some tags that fit into our receptor sites, and now they become a threat. So in this particular case, they believe that it started in a bat and that it's possible that it was a single case of a bat that had a mutated virus that was transferred to a human and started spreading that way. So a lot of times these can be spread from animals to humans if these viruses are mutated, but then once they're mutated, they can also spread from human to human, which is what's happening with this virus now. And here's what's really concerning. They believe that you are mostly at risk of spreading the virus when you have the most symptoms. So when you have a high fever and you're coughing and sniffling and sneezing, you're also the most contagious. But there is also a possibility or probability that asymptomatic people may spread this. They've had some reports, they don't know for sure, but there are some reports on people spreading this who are asymptomatic. So this is a very serious situation. The World Health Organization has declared it a health emergency. And in the United States, they have evacuated about 200 people from Wuhan, China, and they have placed them in quarantine for testing until they know more. And what's so scary about this is that we know so little. We're dealing with something unknown, and that's where they want to be using all the precaution they can so that this doesn't get out of hand. If we can contain it early, then there may not be a big deal, but if it gets out of hand, it could be a worldwide pandemic, which of course nobody wants. But we still have to put this in a little bit of perspective, and we need to understand a few more things. We don't want to just panic and read all the scary facts and go crazy with it. There were a couple of previous coronaviruses. One was called MERS, and it was very, very virulent. It was 30% fatal, but they only had about 2,500 cases, so there were about 800 people dead from the MERS virus. And there was a SARS virus, which was 10% fatal, and there were a few more cases, 8,000, and resulted about the same amount of dead people. Now, this new coronavirus, 2019 nCoV, so far is about 2% fatal. So out of 14,000 cases in China, they're about 3% dead. And all but one of those, I believe, were in China. So this is very frightening. It is very scary. If this would get out of hand, it could be terrible. But we also need to remember how things work in the big scheme of things. So there's something called a seasonal flu. That's the flu, the influenza that you get vaccines for, and and that is a nuisance every year. We're in flu season right now with the winter. So in the US every year, there's about 30 to 60,000 people who die every year in the United States from the seasonal flu. And we don't get so scared about it because it's sort of the same thing over and over. We don't believe that it's going to get totally out of hand. And in worldwide, if we look globally, then there's 300,000 to 600,000 dead people every year. So the regular stuff, the hundreds of thousands that we have every year, of course, they dwarf these numbers, but it's the fact of the uncertainty and the potential of a pandemic that we want to be very cautious with. So I'm not going to list a bunch of things that you can read up for yourself for many reasons. First, you can read it yourself. Secondly, they're changing all the time. Okay, this is changing every day, and the CDC and the National Institute of Health and the World Health Organizations, those are the three organizations that you want to get your facts from. They're updating this on their websites on a daily basis. So you can see what they're learning, you can see what's happening, and you can get the correct information from those sources. So I'm not going to speculate, I'm not going to talk about a bunch of things that they have already said. But here's what we want to real briefly understand, that there's 3 steps to what you can do. And one, of course, first is don't get it. And you want to avoid travel. If you want to avoid any non-essential travel, because anytime that you go into airports, you go into planes, you go into closed spaces, you expose yourself to a lot of different people, then you increase the chances dramatically, exponentially. You want to avoid travel, you want to avoid any kind of crowd if you can help it. And you want to avoid sick people. If they're already coughing and sneezing, then stay away. And they believe this spreads with droplets, with particle droplets. So if somebody sneezes, there's usually like a 6-foot range where those droplets spread. And then what's also important about this virus is that it can live, it can land on a surface, and it can stay, it's not really alive because it's a virus, but it can stay active and virulent for several days. So that's why you want to avoid surfaces where high traffic areas. You want to be cautious about public places with handles and things, door handles. But keep in mind, you want to be cautious, but you don't want to freak out. There is still a very, very, very small chance. There's 6 cases so far confirmed in the United States, and hopefully the number won't go up much. So the risk is very, very small, but do what you can just to be cautious anyway. The next thing you can do is you wipe surfaces and you wash your hands frequently. And you want to use warm water and soap. Okay? Hand sanitizers, you use them if you want to, if they're available, but they don't do all that much because they're primarily designed for bacteria. They're called antibacterial sanitizers. They may or may not do anything for a virus. So wash your hands frequently, warm soap and water. The second thing is don't spread it. Okay? Don't get it, don't spread it. So even if you feel like you're really strong, you don't have a whole lot to worry about, you want to keep in mind that it's the very young and the very old and the weak, the immunocompromised, who always perish from these epidemics, from these infections. So do all the same things that you would avoid to get it, do those as a courtesy to other people to prevent from spreading it, obviously. And now number 3, and this is what nobody else talks about. Nowhere in where I read up, I watched some videos, I did some research, I checked the website, nobody talked about this. Upregulate your immune system. There may be some random chance and some bad luck in contracting and being exposed to the virus, but how well you fare, how well you deal, how well your body deals with the virus is not random chance. Okay? We want to think about these things. The worst of these viruses was 30% fatal. That's devastating. It's horrendous. But 70% of people made it through. So which ones were the people who made it through? They were the people with the strongest immune system. 10% fatal, 90% survivability. COV, 2% fatal, 98% survivability. Okay? So with the seasonal flu, who are the people who die from the flu every year? It's the very young and the very old and the immunocompromised, the people who are weak for some reason. So if you are malnourished and if you're sick already, any virus can be a deadly threat. And here's something else that I found very, very interesting, that with the seasonal flu, there's 30 to 60,000 dead people in the US every year. That's 10% of all the casualties in the world. Yet, the US only has 5% of the world's population. So the death rate from the seasonal flu is twice as high in the US as it is anywhere in the world. How come? We have the best and the most expensive healthcare, supposedly. It's for sure the most expensive. It's supposedly the best. And we have the highest rate of vaccinations against that seasonal flu. And yet we have twice the death rate. So I believe, this is my humble opinion, I think it is because the United States has the worst nutritional status of any country in the world. We have the most stress and the worst nutrition. So other than just being generally smart and don't getting it and don't spreading it, just protecting yourself with some common sense, the next thing that you can do is to get healthy. Give your body the best nutritional chance. Give it the best possible defense system and the best healing abilities that you can give it. All right? So first thing you want to stop is sugar, because sugar will downregulate your immune system. It will feed all the pathogens, not necessarily virus, but it will feed all the other pathogens that assist the viruses, that compete with the viruses. So the more the immune burden is on your system, the more the opportunity, the better the opportunity for the virus to make you sick. You want to stop processed foods because, again, it has tons of sugar, but it also has lots of chemicals that places another burden on your immune system, and it has virtually no nutrition. Okay? It doesn't have anything that your body is really looking for except a few calories in the moment. And then you want to avoid stress. And we've done several videos on this channel talking about this, that your nervous system has something called the autonomic nervous system. You can have stress and be in fight-flight, or you can relax and be in feed-breed or in healing mode. All right? You dramatically improve your immune system when you are relaxed. You dramatically reduce your immune system when you're stressed. So learn how to do some breathing exercises. Check out some videos on that. Do a meditation. Meditate twice a day until they've got this crisis figured out. It's really kind of sad that they sell out of all those mouth guards and all these protective masks, but I bet you anything that they have not reduced the sales of soda and candy and sugar and fast food. All right? So people are so concerned, they want to protect themselves, they want to know what to do. But before you go buy a face mask, stop eating sugar. So I'm not saying the face mask is a bad thing, but it is a small part compared to what you can do for yourself in taking care of yourself. So here's another problem. If you're watching this channel, then I'm kind of preaching to the choir. You already know most of this stuff because you've watched some videos before. But there's a lot of people out there who have no idea that you can actually do something for yourself. So if you've never shared a video before, then please take this one and send it out to as many people as you can. Share the link, send it out so that they can start understanding what's really at stake and how much power they have for themselves to do something about upregulating their immune system. And most importantly, don't panic, because panic is a form of stress. It will downregulate your immune system. So stay calm, stay positive, and do the things you can. Don't listen to the gossip, don't listen to the fearmongers. Get your information from the reputable sources who can be professional and unbiased about it. Get some good information, do the things that you can, and you'll be all right. If you enjoyed this video, make sure that you also check out that one. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.